Welcome. This is Diego Accord here, and the Ramblings of a Bored Guy. What I'm going to talk about today is cars, my main hobby. So, despite it being my main hobby, because it is winter, it can't be partaken in, which kind of makes it not like, it's not not the most fun thing to talk about because you can't just go out and go do it. I mean, you can if you are a certain type of person, like, I have an Evo as one of my cars, and with it being nasty out, there's people that are like, man, yeah, I can't wait to take it out, and it's a rally car, all-wheel drive, and it's made for this. But I'm like, no, it's still metal. I'm like, it's still gonna rust away if you drive it when there's salt. So I don't, I'm not gonna drive it when there's salt out, and they don't make them anymore. So if I let mine rust, what like I gotta fucking replace it if I want the same number of cars. And then what is there to replace it with? Which is a question I'll get to at some point here. Because, cars, as much as I like them, they're changing. Cars, as I know them, as we know them and as I like them, they are coming far and few in between. It's actually the reason that I pretty much have what I have. So anyway, cars are something I have been into since as far as I can remember. I know that's cliche as hell to say, but it is the truth. I don't remember being into anything else before cars, and I always remember that cars were a thing. Even, like when I was a kid, there was some kind of show, like a cartoon, where, I mean, this dude would turn into a car if he got splashed with cold water or something, or if he got dipped in cold water, something like that. It's basically like Ranma One Half, except for instead of turning into girls, pandas, and geese and cats and shit, they would turn, the guy would turn into a car. And I knew about that, way before Ranma. Um, and then, there were shows on TV. You had your Knight Rider, which revolved around the car. You had stuff like Magnum PI. I'm like, I didn't even, whenever I saw that, I wasn't even old enough to follow the storylines. That car is cool. Same thing with, Miami Vice with the Testarossa. Um, like I said, Magnum with the 308. I remember there was this movie. I don't remember how old I was when I saw it. I knew what storylines were, and I was able to follow the movie. But like, it was a trash movie, but it had cars. Like the first scene in the movie was a scene with it's either a 308 or a 328. It was called The Hidden. It's like this alien thing would take over people's bodies, and then they would it liked cars and girls. I do remember that much. So that was, but all I really cared about was the cars. Like, the first scene is with a 308, and it's, you know, and then, there were races were on TV, so you could, you watch races, and I'm like, how could you not like? That's the way that I feel about cars, and guys is like, how can you not be into it? At least, somebody, from an earlier time. Like now, I can understand. I feel sorry for people, um, because there's like people that even when they like if they're quote unquote into cars, which I don't know if you are, because if you're a person that's like only touting technology and you're just like, well, cars are just getting better and better because they can self-drive and electric. I'm like, you're not a car person. In my opinion, you are not a car person if you care about those things. Like, they can get better all they want. I don't fucking care, but I'm not going to enthuse about a car that can drive itself. Like, what's the purpose of me getting a better car that can drive itself as compared to a worse car that can drive itself. Like, I'm not driving it. Its acceleration doesn't mean anything to me. Its features, its handling, its looks. I mean, it might as well be a taxi. I mean, I'm not gonna pay more money for Uber Black or Lyft, whatever the fucking special version of Lyft is. The person picks me up in a fucking Mercedes. Like, it's not my fucking car. I'm not driving it. So if the Mercedes is better than the fucking Maxima, it doesn't even matter to me. So as a person who got in the cars like well before the ages of being able to drive and all that stuff, there are two things that stick out to a car, and that's still true. Like, if I'm gonna like the car, two things: the looks of the car and the way the car sounds. Because when you are judging a car as a kid who cannot yet drive, those are the only things you have to go by. Um, I'm out here doing this drive, and this person has some pretty annoying bass. I'm like, it's fucking 3:30 in the morning, and fucking this guy. I mean, he had his window. It's 37 degrees out. It's 3:30 in the morning. He is. He's got his music up. I mean, I could feel it from across the street. I could hear it from across the street. All this bass. And then I drive past him, and he's got his fucking windows down. Like, are you trying to impress people at 3:30 in the morning? When it's 37 degrees outside? Like, bro. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. Fucking, like I said, cars, the sound, and the looks. And even today, all these years later, those are the things that's gonna draw me to a car. I don't care about its fucking features and all that bullshit. It has to look right. And those, like I said, that is a major part of the reason I have the cars that I have right now. So basically, growing up throughout the 90s and all that good stuff, I liked 80s cars and 90s cars, of course. Early 2000s were cool as well. But in saying that I have to like the looks, the main thing was what are the proportions of the car. So proportions matter. So the overall shape of the car, the size of the windows compared to the rest of the car, the shape of the windows compared to the rest of the car, angles of the pillars A, B, and C. Wagons I don't like, so if it has a D pillar, I'm probably not going to be into it. It's just how it is. Um, what else? I mean, the headlights and taillights, grill, like everything just has to be right. And see, there are a lot of cars that just does everything right. So I will consider these to be like all perfect cars. Like a car, like it doesn't need to be a great car. It doesn't need to be a good car to be a car that has a perfect design. Because there are cars that you would consider a shitbox that have a perfect design. Like there is nothing wrong with it. Even cars that I don't particularly like or I wouldn't own unless there was a fucking some kind of a miracle to happen to make me own it. Like the second gen Chrysler 300. Like I think it's a good looking fucking car. Like there's literally nothing wrong with the design anywhere on that car. Now, if they had like a manual fucking, like a manual Scat Pack version or, manual Hellcat or something, I'd get it. I think it looks a lot better than the Charger. It looks a lot better than the fucking first gen. Like, there isn't anything wrong with it. Lance Revolution 6, probably my favorite car. I don't find anything wrong with that car. In every angle, fucking perfect. S550 Mustang GT and 350 GT 350, as well as 15 through 17. Fucking Nothing wrong with that car. They kind of messed it up on the facelift, but nothing. And even, like more mundane shit, like the Dodge Shadow Coupe. Nothing wrong with that car. Windows are the perfect shape and size for the car. The pillars, the angles of all the pillars go with the mirror, or go with the windows. Headlights the right shape. Even the versions of the car, different headlights, different grills, and all that shit. Other versions of the car, everything looks right on that car. And there's cars where everything looks good except for like one thing. Like one of my cars is an Evo 10, and of course that body style of Lancer. There's one thing that I don't like about it, and that's how big the back of the car is, like the trunk. Like it's not big, but it doesn't have any features on it, so therefore it's just a large, like the whole trunk is just a large uninterrupted area. I mean, a lot of people try to fill that out by putting like the Evolution, like a big badge that says Evolution across the back to like kind of fill that out. But it still stands that it's a large area of the car. It's just like every angle looks fucking amazing on that car, except for just straight up on the back where that trunk is just too large. It takes up too much space without having any like there's no lines. There's nothing to break it up. But everything else looks fucking great. It's kind of like the 6th gen Camaro. I like it. Everything looks great except for that quarter window. If the quarter window was still a triangle like it was on the 5th gen instead of the fucking trapezoidish thing, that car would be fucking perfect. And that's why I don't have one. Because I was trying to decide on that and the Mustang, and the Mustang won because I feel like the Mustang doesn't have any bad angles. And then of course, there's supercars. Like, people are like, I mean, I know, like, I wouldn't want to own something like a 308, but everything's perfect on that fucking car. Everything is just fucking right on that fucking car. And there's probably like shittier cars in a Dodge Shadow that like everything is just right on it. Well, it's probably not shittier than a Dodge Shadow, but like first gen Nissan Altima, only Altima that actually looks good. But like first gen 93 through 97 looks fucking perfect. Like it's not like a great car, but like nothing is wrong with the design. Like it's a round car. The Jelly Bean Taurus, like 96 through 99 or whatever it is, that also is round, but it doesn't look good. The Altima looks good with everything being round. The headlight shapes perfect for the car. The grills perfect. Tail lights perfect. The windows, the greenhouse, the pillars, everything is just right. Ford did a similar thing to that Jelly Bean Taurus, but just because of the proportions. Like it's got those small circle headlights, those small circle turn indicators. It's wider, it's more bulbous. It just does not, it's an ugly fucking car. So, and then, you go from the first gen Altima to the second gen Altima. They just chiseled some lines on it and they took it from a good looking car to a fucking ugly car. You take the trunk and just like lop it instead of having it still come around with that, with the curve. It lops straight down and it doesn't look as good. You take the windows, you take that, smooth curve of the windows and just add an extra angle to it. It doesn't look good anymore. First gen TSX to second gen TSX. First gen TSX is a perfect looking car. Had one. There's no bad angles on the first gen TSX. Funny story. Aside from having one with the JDM front swap and Honda badges and stuff, it was had coilovers, some wheels, Cosmos wheels, the ones that look like deep RPF ones. When I went to Japan, I saw a Euro R, an Accord Euro R, which is the same body style as CL9 at the TSX, and I was going to take some pictures. I think it was in Akiba, and the guys, like the guys that own the picture or that own the car, he was talking to his buddies around the car, and then I started like getting in position to take some pictures of it, and then he like waves his buddies off like, hey man, he's about to grab some pictures, so when I like step out of the way so he can get his pictures, and I'm like, that's fucking cool. That was amazing as hell. So anyway, though, TSX, they take the second gen, so they take the first gen body, they add slabs to all the wheel arches, and they take the headlights and tail lights and put these curves on the bottom of them instead of just going straight. And it literally just takes a perfect car and just fucks it up with so many minor little details. And then of course, the bigger grill, the beak grill that everybody fucking hates. So yeah, it's just gotta like have the right looks. It doesn't matter what the level of the car, from the shittiest commuter car to a supercar or hypercar. Like I don't like the Veyron or the Chiron. I don't. They are ugly fucking cars. It just doesn't matter what like. They're the ballin'. They can be that. They can be fast. They can be everything. I'm like, there's a like the all white version that doesn't have the two tone like and white wheels, all white on white. Like that one looks all right. You can make it look all right, but I don't think a car that you have to do things to make it look acceptable is a good looking car in the beginning anyway. Like, I think the 8th gen Civic sedan, like if you do a JDM front swap and a JDM trunk, then it looks okay. So basically like Type R treatment or the Canadian version Acura CSX treatment. You do those swaps and then like it looks okay. But since you have to do all that, it's not, it's not a good looking car to begin with. But a lot of the cars that I like, you wouldn't have to do that shit. Like the most you'd want to do is change, add a lip to it, and that's it. Add a lip and some wheels and lower it. I mean, every car can use a lowering in wheels. It doesn't matter what it is. Right now I have I got a daily, which is a Malibu. I'll talk about why I have that. I got the Mustang GT S550 built, revs to 8,500. Took the parts list from a guy that ran 10s at my local track. So just did everything he did. He had a nice build thread. So I'm like, yep, that, and that. We'll do it. And then, the Evo 10, which has, full precision, 60 to 66 cams, blah, 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 stuff. Um, I have those. And like I said, design plays a part into it, and also what's offered now compared to what I want versus um, what I would have if everything was perfect. I mean, if everything was perfect, I'd have my daily would be an old Honda. I tried to buy an old Honda when I bought this car, the Malibu that I'm in right now. So, but those cars, those 90s Hondas, those are 25 years old and shit. So you just can't find a clean one without traveling, which I was willing to do. Had one lined up. I'm like, dude, you gonna sell it? You're like, yeah. I'm like, if I get there, as long as that car is everything you said that it is, and I feel like I can just get in and drive it back. I'm not talking you down or anything. We are good to go. But he's like, nah, I don't think I'm gonna sell it. Because I mean, he was just the final straw. Like that last car shopping that I did at that time was just very fucking annoying. I went to a dealership to get a Hawkeye Subaru WRX. They sold it. Like I still got there before they opened. and they fucking sold it, trying to sell me something else. Like, hey, you're a Dodge dealership. I don't want shit you got. The only thing that's even interesting to me at this time is the fucking manual Hellcat, and I don't need that because I got my Mustang and my fucking Evo. But it was supposed to just be a daily, which I mean you wouldn't do with a Hellcat. And if I got a Mustang, I'm not gonna get I'm not gonna get a Challenger for a daily. I mean you could. I have driven one, driven a couple before I got the Mustang. I was test driving them, but they are more comfortable. But why would I want a V8 coupe when why would I want two of the same thing? Which is why when I had an S2000, I also had a Miata when I got the S2000. I didn't want two of the same thing, two little convertibles with only two seats. So I had to get rid of them, or get rid of one, which was obviously the Miata in that case. So anyway, as far as designs, like the reason that I've got what I've got now, um, when it comes to the Mustang, when they came out with that body style, like it looked perfect. Like I said, it still does. I'm like, somebody can just drive past in any Mustang of the newest body style. I'm like, man, that's a good looking car. You know, it just looks fucking great. And of course, with the Coyote coming out a few years before that in the previous body style, that motor was already had its fucking praises sung. So I'm like, man, that seems like a perfect car. I'm like, and it revs to 7,000 stock V8. So yeah, I wanted it. I had the opportunity to get it after I had a CRZ on bags. They got totaled, and I needed to get something else to replace it. And I knew it was going to be a muscle because at this point I had exhausted all my Japanese cars. Like I'd only been driving Japanese stuff forever, with just one or two exceptions. And by this time I'm like, man, all the Japanese stuff that I would want is way fucking older than the one that I've got, and I don't want something older than what I've got. Like I love the old shit, but no, not after the CRZ. I wasn't gonna get something old. So it was either Mustang, Challenger, or Camaro. Ended up with the Mustang. Evo 10, I've had that for about 5 years. It was down for most of it. It got blew up day after Christmas in 2016, and then I got it fixed last year. Got it fixed with all the stuff, turbo kit cams and all that stuff. Got all that shit put on there, and then it promptly went down again after like a month. So that was fun. Still gotta, gotta deal with that shit again. And then the Malibu, I said I was trying to find a RSX Type S or a Del Sol or like something else like that. Civic Si, and none could be had. Like it was just ridiculous how impossible it was to find anything. I'm like, I met a guy with a Del Sol. I mean, with an RSX, and when I see him, every single body panel is dented on this thing. I'm like, man, that's gonna take some money. Like it drove decently. I'm like, it's gonna take some money. And then you had, other Civics and all that shit. Like I was saying, it's just everything was just beat and just tore up. And then the WRX at the dealership, because I was out. It was out way in the country, and I didn't have any fucking signal the whole time. And then I get into the town, and then I've got all the missed calls and messages and shit asking am I gonna come. And then when I do get there, they're fucking selling that thing to some fucking motherfucker. And this is it's still before open. And I'm like, that was hours. So it was that, and then a Del Sol that was like somewhere. It was a couple states away. And after saying he wanted to sell it, he was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to sell it." Like it's people put cars up for sale and then they don't. I guess they don't think anybody's gonna fucking buy it, and then when somebody does, then, so he did that. Then I'm like, you know what? The only car that I want at this point, it has to be, I'm gonna just get a family damn car. Just not gonna get a like a rattle box or anything like that. I'm just get a family damn car that's automatic, and it has to look good because like it's not gonna be an enthusiast car. I don't care about anything else, so it just has to look good. And I just happen to think that I got this car in 19, so at this time the Malibu, I mean its current body style, obviously Malibu, New Accord, Optima, Impala, and yeah, I think that was it as far as what I was considering. Now, I felt like they were going to change the body style on the Optima, so I didn't get one for that reason. I'm like, I don't want to buy this thing, and then they change the body style next year, which, I mean, they completely just went to a different car the next year, which was a K5, which, I mean, I don't like it. The Optima looks better, but like, I still wouldn't want the previous body style of a car that I'm just about to purchase now. Um, And then the Malibu or the other car, the other Chevy, I think it also looks good. It doesn't have any bad angles, just like the Malibu does not. So it really just came between those two because the Accord, I don't like the way it looks. The sixth gen, I mean the 10th gen, the ninth gen looks good, but it was not the current body style. So I'm not about to buy the previous body style of a car while the nice new one is out, even if I don't like the new one better. So the Accord was out because of its looks. And it's crazy is it has a similar look to the Malibu, but the front end being just like chopped off, and the surrounding of the windows, because like the windows almost have the same shape as the Malibu, even with the C pillar having like that separate window in the back on the C pillar as opposed to it being in a door with a separation. Um, but the little part, the chrome part under the window, like, it's got that weird fucking shape that they did with the Civic as well. The 10th gen Civic. Like, if it wasn't for that, I would have got the Accord because the Accord is easily a better car, I'm going to imagine, because it's a fucking Accord versus a Malibu. And I'm like, Malibus have shit resale. I mean, Chevys have shit resales, but especially Malibus. Now, my personal Malibu is a Premier because I needed, as a car person, I still wanted like decent passing power. So Premier 9 speed, 0 to 60 in like 5.5, which is decent enough. Um, you know, it's enough. So I mean that's the reason that I've got my stuff on like the Evo 10. I wanted that car when it came out immediately because I like the Evo at least since the 6, and I hated the next body style, the CT9A, which would be the 789. I hated it. And then when they came out showing what the 10 was like, I'm like, oh, I like the way that looks because the greenhouse has a more traditional shape because the 789, the CT9A, the greenhouse is like pretty big, and the angles of the windows compared to the previous generations of Evos, I don't like the angles of the windows. Yes, that's some very minor shit. But like I said, it's the same reason I don't like the sixth gen Camaro. It's because of the trapezoid quarter window compared to the triangle on the previous model. Um, but anyway, the headlights on the CT9A are fucking huge, in my opinion, and especially the 8 has the fucking shittiest front end of all Evos because it got the worst grill, especially where the Mitsubishi logo's at, and it's the worst looking air dam. So yeah, but I didn't feel any of that when they showed the 10. I'm like, oh man, yeah, that's what I fucking want. And then of course, when that car came out, I believe I was probably working. Well, I mean, I was working at GameStop, so like it was not an option to get one. I didn't even think I was going to get one. And then, funny enough, as well, like by the time the Mustang came out, I was doing like all right for the, when the S550 came out, and I was like, that's a perfect car. I fucking want one of those. And then I got one very shortly after that. So, that's good. But I've had a bunch of stuff. I've had mostly Hondas because from the '90s. Well, I mean, I never drove like in the '90s except for when too young before like before it was really possible. You know, Mom would just like throw fucking keys. Well, I mean, hey, you want to go out and just all right. Luckily, never got fucking popped for that. Never got pulled over. But I didn't do stupid shit. Like, I mean, I accelerated, you know, sometimes, but I didn't do stupid shit like drive with people, like having full car passengers and just like driving around because, like when people do that shit, like, I mean, it shouldn't be considered like asking for it, but like it's like when it happens and like somebody's just riding around and they've got a bunch of people and they get fucking just pulled over just for hanging out. It's just like it was gonna happen. That's just how stuff works depending on where you are. So anyway, got what I've got for like I said, for the reasons that I got them. Cars have just always been a thing, more so than the other hobbies. And like I said, when you get like a car done, you get a new car, you get a car completed, and all that stuff. Like it feels good. Like it feels great. There's nothing like it. Because I mean, in the gaming space, what like buying, getting a new consoles and all that stuff, or getting a new graphics card on the computer, or getting a new computer. I'm like, that's nothing compared to getting a car. Um, so it's a much better feeling. And then just pulling up to a meet, people looking, taking pictures, and all that other stuff. Because I mean, I've had that with my current with the Mustang. I mean, I got a lot of stuff done to it, as I said. Um, you know, got a lot of stuff done to him. So of course, that's going to happen. But I mean, you go to a gas station. It's like, and the thing is, there's so many non-car people that exist that are out there, but despite that fact, people will talk to you all day when you are driving like a fixed up car. You're going to get some gas, or you just whatever you're doing. If you are by the car, that happens. That's another reason, like I like cars. It used to be where you would be driving around in whatever your little Civic or something, and you'd see a lot of cars, and you just fucking meet people. Like I mean, I fell out of touch with people from hobbies like the fighting games and stuff like that. That I was talking about, people that used to go to the arcade when we were kids. Like, when the arcade shut down, fell out of touch with them because of that. And then I'm randomly, when I'm I'm racing somebody. I just pull up to a car that's the same kind of car as mine that has some mods done to it, and we just take off like, yeah, that happened, and then we pull in somewhere, and then we get out the car, and it's like you, 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 and some other people here that he was with, and I'm like, fuck, I didn't know you were in the cars. Didn't know you were in the cars. All right. And like that's crazy. And there's multiple people like that were into the games that are in the cars now, and I'm back in contact with them because of that. So cars. I mean, cars are just always going to be a good time. Like I until they don't exist like they do. Like if I were to let my Evo just like if I were to drive that during winter and let it just go to rot, or the Mustang. I mean, the next Mustang is probably just not going to be a normal fucking car with a fucking engine. A normal car with just a fucking engine and a manual transmission. It looks good. The Evo already doesn't exist anymore. So what are you gonna do if you want a car similar to that? You got to get a fucking WRX now. And I don't like the WRX. Not the current one. I had a Blobeye STI, and that's the latest model that I like. Actually, it goes in order, like it goes in inverse order from the Blobeye backwards to how much I like it. So with Subarus, it's like Blobeye is okay. Bug Eye I like better because of the front bumper. When you have like the STI fog light covers, it still looks better. And then of course GC8 is easily the best looking Subaru. Um, and I like the Legacy, like the '05 through whatever year '09 or something like that. That actually looks better than the Blob Eye and the Bug Eye. So yeah, but yeah, just it'll be hard to replace these cars because you don't know what, unless you want to get some older cars. So of course, I like older JDMs. I went over to Japan and drove the Evo 6 car that I still want, but if it's just impossible to get it for a reasonable number, I'm just never gonna have it. Just kind of like the Skylines. Now, when the Skyline R32 GTR came to be legal over here in the States, my Evo 10 was more expensive than a GTR at that time. But still, because I'd seen GTRs on sale like like years and years, like a decade at least earlier, just as a kid online, obviously you can't even think about getting one, but you see them online on these websites, and Skyline GTR R33s, it's like 2005, and they are like $8,000 fucking cars. And I'm like, now, somebody wants 50 for it. Like, I'm not gonna give somebody 50 just because of the fact that it was out there for less than that prior. Like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Same thing with even with the GTRs. They um, when they came out over here, they were around 15. 15's about what they were. And I'm like, hold on, these damn things were like fucking 8, 7 on like Batfa or whatever the site was. And then when you saw like random people selling them in like other countries where they just had been imported, and they were like cheap like that too. And now it's like 15. Like, yeah, I want to pay 15 for that. And it's 25 years old. It's also old. Now, of course, with the fanboyism, like that shit doesn't matter because even cars that aren't like crazy special are becoming like, if you want one, you're gonna pay more than you paid, a while ago. Even something like, if you wanted a clean Integra GSR, you're probably gonna be paying like 5 grand for that shit. RSX Type S's had gotten down to a point where they were like fucking 3 grand. Now, 6 at least. WRXs like O2 Bug Eyes American editions, they were down to the fucking 3,000 range as well. They probably like 5 or 6. Um, it's crazy. Just because nobody's making like good shit that anybody wants. What can you buy? I mean, and that's why I have what I have. Like, I would have never had a Mustang in previous generations. I'm like, the first time I even would have thought of it is when they put the Coyote in it. Like, oh, revs to 7,000, and then they had the Boss 302 with the 7,500 red line. It revs to 7,500, and it sounds good. Like, I didn't like that body style, but like, I didn't like much else anyway that wasn't old. So I'm like, oh, that'd be a lesser of all evils. So I would get that. Um, yeah. So, but then the S550 came out and it looked good as well. So I'm like, that's a perfect fucking car. That's what I'm gonna get. Um, you know, and R34s, I don't even want to think about those. Actually, I don't even want to think about Evo 6s. Like, how much are those gonna be? I'm like, I've seen people selling those like in the UK or whatever. They're like, it's an Evo 6 and 8,000. And when in a couple years when they're 25, you're gonna be paying like 40 fucking grand for that too. And see, here's the thing: it doesn't matter how much I like the car, and if I can afford it, I'm not gonna pay the price for the car. Like, I'm not gonna pay the gouged price for the car. It's just not gonna happen. Like, it doesn't matter if I can afford it, because you look at a 33. Like, those are going for 50 grand right now for a GTR. Now, I can get that. I can get that car if I really want that car. But I'm not going to give somebody 50 grand for that fucking car. If I'm going to spend 50 grand, there's just going to be better alternatives. It's just like the last 2 major cars that I bought, like the major fun cars. So, I mean, yeah, because it was years ago, and Skylines hadn't even appreciated to what they are now, I still paid more. I paid more for my Evo 10 than a GTR was, but I still wasn't gonna pay like, how's it 15 grand when it was just like fucking half of that 10 years ago? Like, fuck somebody, but fuck them. I don't want the car that much. Of course, when I bought the Mustang, I could have bought some kind of JDM overpriced car, but I mean, if I'm just looking at car per car, like, I like this car as much as I like that car. Like, I believe that whatever so and so car, like, that's a perfect car in all the ways that I believe that a car can be like fucking quote unquote perfect. But I am, I'm gonna get a new car, or I'm gonna pay this for a 25-year-old car. That, of course, when I drive the car, I mean, it's still a used car. It's gonna have used car shit wrong with it, and it's gonna be like a case of meeting your heroes, because like when I first, even like the Evo 10, like when I fucking first really got on it, like, I wasn't impressed. I was like, because I had my S2000 at the same time that I bought the Evo as well, and like that car was just sorted out. And I mean, the Evo was of course stock, and like I could tell it had a lot more mid-range torque push to it. But I'm like, it was like, oh man, I wanted this car since it came out, and now I have it, and it kind of like is underwhelming. So I'd imagine that buying a fucking Skyline is the same thing. I didn't get a chance to drive it. Like, I was supposed to drive an R34 GTR in Japan, but had some issues with the foreign transaction um, which kept me from doing that. So I mean, I did drive the Evo 6, and with that car being like stock, high mileage, like if I got on it a little bit, and it was slow. It was slower than mine. Like before mine was modded, like before mine had like a lot of stuff done to it. It was still slower than mine when mine just had like the bolt-ons. But like it did feel, it might be because of the trip, because of the whole situation, but I wasn't like disappointed in driving that car. It was like, man, it feels great to be driving this damn thing. Like it sounded good, which the Evo 10 like did not, even with mods, even with the exhaust on it, it just didn't sound good. That one did. I didn't look under the hood, so I don't know like if it had a tubular manifold, but it sounded better than mine before I had, the full turbo kit and all that shit. Um, so yeah, but yeah. So I mean, pretty much though. I mean, I've kind of just randomly talked about cars and whatnot, various aspects of cars. And like I said, the only thing going forward is if I want to get something different. I was actually about to get to this point. Like I was saying, a Skyline, a 33 GTR is, about 50K or so. Now here's the thing, like I was about to say, I can get a 50K car right now if I want to be stupid. I can do that. But if I'm looking at 50K cars, I'm sorry, but a Skyline GTR R33 is out of the fucking question. It's just like me getting a Mustang over whatever other overpriced Japanese shit was available at the time that I could have got, or even with the Evo purchase. It's like I could have got a GTR, but I felt like it was under or overpriced. Even though, like by now, if I'd have bought that thing, if I'd have bought a GTR now, I'd have like doubled my fucking money on it. But I still can't lose money on the Evo. I mean, technically I would because I did mods to it. But I bought the car for whatever price I did in 2015. I can literally sell it for more than that today in 2021. So, but it's because it's mainly because I never got to put that many miles on the damn car since I had it, and also, you know, big turbo mods, 700 horsepower, and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, but I mean, I think that is pretty much gonna do it for this video. Um, I'll probably talk about like my owned car history or something like that, because I mean it's gonna be a lot of Hondas and whatnot, of course. But things had to change because I mean Honda doesn't make anything right now. They got the SI and the Type R, and I mean I can't justify. I said I was in a position to possibly buy an SI when the current generation came out, but they were asking 3 grand over a sticker, so I didn't buy it for that reason. I'm like, it's just a 200 horsepower fucking Honda. Like, it's nothing special. I already had an Evo, so nah, just no. And then the Type R, I mean, the 10th gen Civic is just fucking ugly as fuck. Anyway, I'm like, the Type R is just ugly. And it doesn't, to me, it's not something that I would say, like, has a special engine. It's like, it doesn't have anything that makes me, like, want it more than, like some other cars. It's ugly. Has a low red line, especially for a Honda. And it's still wrong wheel drive. So, not something I'm into. But anyway, that is going to do it here. Subscribe, comment, like, and just watch out for any other, for the next videos. There'll be varying subjects. I believe the next one that I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about Japan. It'll be another video about that, but it's going to be a multi-part about the actual trip. So part one's going to be when like the history of not being able to go and why that is, and then how I was able to go. And then the second part is going to be like me getting prepared for the trip, like all the stuff, with the who I flew with, the flight, like the details of flight information that I learned that I needed to know, and all like the accommodations and the flight itself. That's what I'll talk about in the second video in that. And then the third one will be about actually being over there. So the first two I'll be able to hopefully cut up in the half hour ish, and then the other ones, the video about being there will probably be a longer one like this one, and then I will have like a closing thoughts video. I don't know if I'll even post that one in order, to try to get some variety in there, because there are some things that I think is not even necessarily about Japan, but about some people. Yeah, so all right then, bye for now.